Still 7:05. I will call the Brandon Select Board to order. The agenda has been posted. What's the pleasure of the board regarding the agenda?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda as posted. Second.
A motion and a second to adopt the agenda that was posted. I do have a couple things to add that are executive sessions that I think we knew about but just failed to have on the warning. I would offer as 8B an executive session, same as last meeting, which would be regarding the collective bargaining agreement with the New England Police Benevolent Association Local 422. So this is a police union contract, and that is an executive session that's allowable under Title I VSA 313(3)(a)(1) to include the town manager. And then as 8C, a second executive session for just the board to consider the letters of interest that have come in for select board candidates to fill the vacancy. And that is allowable as an executive session under the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. So if we could add those two after we sign the warrant. Are there any other changes to be made? Did we miss anything else? Okay. If no other changes to be made, all in favor of adopting the agenda as we've just amended it, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Item 2 is approval of the board minutes of the August 8th meeting.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as they were submitted by the recording secretary. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes as they were submitted? If not, ready to vote, all in favor of adopting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. So item 3 is the town manager's report. Mr. Atherton.
That's my report for August 22nd. The highway department has started work on Town Farm Road. The section of the paved portion from Route 73 to just past the driving range to the golf course have been closed during the day for culvert replacement and asphalt removal and rebuilding of gravel base. So today they actually got all of the asphalt off, which they've been plugging right along, so that's going along great. The Newton Road pump station rebuild is tentatively scheduled to start on September 1st. The concrete pad has been poured for the new generator and trenching has been dug for new pipe. VLCT is offering a grant update for zoning bylaws. I'm sorry, a grant to update zoning bylaws. I have passed this information off to our zoning administrator to present to the planning commission. They need to sign off on this grant as well. We've done a couple of these before, like the planning grant. Hopefully after that, I'll have something that, if they want to move forward, to bring to the select board to sign. VLCT has also asked municipalities to consider holding a legislative candidates forum prior to the November election. I think this would be a great event to host at the town hall, and I have emailed Karen Horn at the league for more info. And we have received the annual true-up check from Green Lantern Solar in the amount of $13,507.96. And I just realized I didn't finish my sentence on that. This is on top of the 15% of the total output, or the total output we get off the array that helps our electric bills through the year. So we've been doing pretty good with that. Rec news: B-Rec dance lesson with Michaela are back. Longer session that will span fall, winter, and spring. Starts on September 13th. Classes for ages 3 through 17 will be held at the town hall and Otter Valley. Slide Out of Summer Party at Estabrook is being held on Sunday, August 28th from 3 to 6 p.m. A massive slip and slide, water slide, karaoke, and a bounce house. $1 hot dogs, face painting, snow cones are all on tap. Say adios to a wonderful summer and hello to back to school. Free admission. This is a collaboration with the Brandon Area Toy Project and Ellie Mae Foundation. And last, pickup basketball has returned to the gym at Otter Valley. Adults of all ages and abilities play on Thursdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 7 a.m. and registration is free.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. Questions from the board for the town manager?
No.
I had one or two. The chamber has traditionally hosted candidate nights and stuff like that. Is this something that the chamber might want to be
We could certainly
collaborated with on?
talk about it, yeah, if the chamber's
Is this a
texting right
state
now.
one or just the local one?
This would be
State one?
state for our region.
We haven't normally done the state one, it's usually been just local, but, yeah, we would love to.
Well, I mean, it says legislative, that's what,
Right.
I mean, you've done the legislative
Oh,
ones
yeah.
before.
Yeah. I mean, they're talking about like broader state higher offices of some sort.
I thought don't want to do senators too, I wasn't sure. That's why I'm trying to get information from Karen to,
Yeah, Dave and I can talk about it.
yeah. I haven't heard back from her yet, so I'll follow up with her again tomorrow.
Okay. And did we have any response from VLCT about the application that we submitted for the Welcoming Communities cohort yet? Or
Well-
is that still open?
It's open.
Still
It's open,
Until
but
the end of August.
Okay,
seeing as how I got this letter that we're gonna talk about earlier, and
Yeah.
it says that we've, applied for the VLCT thing, I think it's kinda interesting, so.
that the new one referenced the
Right.
previous one?
Maybe I'm reading
Okay.
into it a little too much,
Okay.
but.
And then lastly, with the grant on the zoning update, or the zoning bylaws update, what are the kinds of expenses that are involved with updating the Blue Hole?
I'm gonna look at Stephanie, because we'll probably get help from the RPC anyway, like we usually do. I can't remember what we did last time, there'll be a match for it. I don't know. I'd have to look into it when we get application and stuff ready to go.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
It seems like,
Mr. Moore?
if I recall correctly from my time before, I think we're even part of the select board, I think that we brought in a consultant to help facilitate the zoning bylaw changes. I think that's what paid for a decent chunk of that money. If I recall correctly, I'm just from 2012 or 11, 12, somewhere in there.
yeah, I don't remember when we did it last, it was quite a while ago. But if we can get help with it, that'd be great.
So we redo the town plan on a statutory kind of basis. Is this also required, or is it just like it's been apparently 10 years and it's just good
It's
practice?
just to update our zoning regs to sort of be in,
Okay.
with what's currently going on. I mean, a lot of things have changed. We're seeing a lot of housing stuff change. I mean, we've changed things along the way as our zoning administrator sees, things aren't working, like we did the sign ordinance how many years ago. So it's good to keep updating it, I think.
Okay, great.
You know.
Questions for the town manager from the public who are in attendance in the room this evening? Any questions for Mr. Eft? How about from folks on Zoom? Any questions for the town manager? There's always public comment available for each agenda item. So, was there someone on Zoom with a question?
Yeah.
Yes, Erica
Is it
Paulson.
time for the public comment?
Almost.
Sure, we're there, yep.
Okay, so my name's Erica Paultano. I actually came in and saw Mr. Atherton back in June, I believe. And my concerns were about Pearl Street and the conditions of the sidewalks on Pearl Street, and what the town plan was at any point to redo those sidewalks. There are areas where grass is growing through, that there's drop-offs, there's ankle breakers all over. I've had people on our street tell me that they've taken falls in the winter. And I'm just really concerned that if it's not part of the upcoming plan, which Mr. Atherton and I discussed, that we're gonna have some injuries that won't go well for the town. And so I'm just wondering if there are some funds that might be accessed in order to make it safe. It's also very dark at night, so anyone that's even trying to walk a dog or anything that in the evening, and they can't see the drop-offs as well, I think it's gonna harm somebody.
Thank you for the comment. Dave, did you have anything on that? in
Yeah,
regard to that?
Eric and I talked about it for a while, and
Yeah.
it's not in our paving schedule this year, but Sean and I have discussed it too, because, as we know, concrete sidewalk costs a fortune. And we've looked at pulling up the asphalt sidewalks we have, rebasing them and paving them hopefully next year. Because Carver Street has spots that are equally as bad as Pearl Street.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I've been here for 26 years, and our sidewalks have never been done, either side of the road.
Is the sidewalk eligible for 1% money?
Yeah, it's a capital
Yeah.
project, so.
Yeah, just check,
Um,
confirming.
The thing is the timing right now, like, we wouldn't have time this year to do them, but we certainly, if we get them on the schedule for next year, it's something that we'll go in and tear up and rebase, and then just have, an asphalt company come in with their sidewalk machine and pave for us, so.
So you're saying, so this is more than resurfacing?
Oh, there's no resurfacing.
No
These-
resurfacing.
These are gone. When I walked on Carver Street today, and they're bad. They're really bad. They've been neglected for far too long, so, we can do a lot of asphalt sidewalk for way less money than concrete, so, we're definitely looking at doing them next year, so.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Sean and I went out and looked at some spots, Eric, and we certainly can go look at, if there's some that are really, really bad, we could throw some cold patch or some reclaimed asphalt in there or something just to smooth them out too, so.
Mm-hmm. I think that may be a good idea, or at least looking at, even the light, like I said, the lighting part of it as well.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. I'm not aware of what there are for streetlights on Pro Street, so I'd have to take a look.
Mm-hmm. And I just, like I said, there's areas where, there's big drop-offs.
Yeah.
I was just walking to the post office today, and, if you're not fully 100% looking at the ground every time, it's dangerous. And at night, you can't see any of it,
Yep.
so. But thank you for coming over and doing something about the garden a little bit.
Yeah, there's more to come with that too. You might see us there with doing something else in the near future that'll make it better too, so.
Yeah. Yep. All right, I appreciate it. That was really it for me.
Thank you again for raising the concern. I think that we're all kind of aware that the town, some of the infrastructure did not get the attention that it required for a length of time. And for instance, it took us 3 budgeting seasons to pay for sidewalk on one side of Park Street. It's very expensive to rebuild sidewalk, and I think if we had maintained them better, we probably wouldn't be in the position that we're in, but we're here. And so some of the sidewalks, Dave has had a plan and a grant that involves Union Street, which has been a particularly bad section of sidewalk for some time. And I'm not saying that Pearl Street is not, but I think it's great that you've highlighted it for us, and that Dave's aware, and that there's a potential solution in the next season, if not this season.
Yeah.
So thank you. Are there other folks tonight, either in the room or on Zoom, with public comment and participation? This would be items that aren't on the agenda, but you'd like to bring before the board. None heard right now. Okay, well, we're very informal, so raise your hand if it comes to you later on. So item 5 is Brandon Energy Committee. They submitted a report, and there's some time for a brief presentation from the Energy Committee Chair. Jim Emerson's here.
Thank you, and
Thank you, Jim.
I want to start with expressing my gratitude for the opportunity that the Select Board's afforded in the town of Brandon for our committee to exist and function. We've gotten to be quite a group now, and we're pretty excited about what we're up to. You've seen the report where we highlighted how we were successful last year in bringing Solar Fest to make this their home base. We did a lot to help make the Davenport Electric Fest be a success. We participated in the July 4th parade with delight, and now we have routine articles in the Reporter. We did quite a bit of effort to evaluate the vehicle, police vehicle, maybe turning to an electric option. Hopefully that will be coming soon. We'd also like to offer our support, and I think Bill Moore has a vehicle he's needing to replace for the town purposes, and we'd love to have, our committee would be glad to hear what the specs are for that vehicle and do some deep dive into evaluating that, if the board so wishes. We put a good deal of effort in evaluating solar installations for the town and for community solar. This new law, the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, is going to provide a lot of opportunities, and a big item is that there used to be a 30% tax credit for businesses and homeowners. That is now being made available as a rebate or refund for nonprofit organizations that don't pay taxes and municipalities. So we're doing some research on the how that can interplay with the idea of a solar project here in town that could be very advantageous for the town and the townspeople. So we, working hard to evaluate the status of the town with respect to our greenhouse gas emissions, so we know where they are now and can evaluate how we're making progress, not only for the municipality, but also for the businesses and the residences of town. We're doing a research project on that topic. We've expanded our committee membership from 5 to 7. In addition, we now have developed working groups. We have a conservation working group, a generation working group, transportation working group that consists of 2 or 3 of our committee members and other volunteers. So now we have 8 volunteers in addition to our committee working on these projects. In addition, we have an education working group, which is really the group of all the committee members and any volunteers who can join in, because there's a lot to learn. For example, we're having Brock come in to train us on their program this month. We'll have Heat Squad in next month, Efficiency Vermont the month after. And hopefully a chance to get someone in who's an expert on this new law in the interim here somewhere. We've set up we had 20 goals last year. We met, I think, 8 or 9 of them fully. We carried over a bunch of them to this year, where we now, with more people, added up. I'm afraid we ended up with 38 goals this year. Ambitious. But, for example, the conservation working group, we met once. We're looking to have a kind of a button-up campaign this fall. SolarFest member is training us on how to do a button-up campaign with our members on a fairly modest scale business, but with $50, $60 of supplies, and doing things like, making sure you have insulation behind your wall outlets and pipe insulation and the right kind of light bulbs and so forth. That group, we're getting, hoping to have a training at the Brandon Museum, where we'll work our magic on the museum itself. And then we hope to, if we can get the right connections, reach out to landlords and support them in having the supplies provided for, with a kind of a teaming. We're teaming up with SolarFest. SolarFest is going to provide the supplies, we're going to provide the manpower, is the hope. And that we'll be able to do much of this work of buttoning up for free, both for the landlords and tenants, as well as other residents in town. So that's an example of what we're working towards in the conservation group. I know the transportation group just met this recently, and I haven't heard their game plan or what's formulated there, but and I know the generation committee is getting together this week. Other than that, SolarFest, whom Jack's been doing a lot of work with myself to help them be prepared for their September 10th celebratory event. They're going to have a full day from 11 in the morning till 10 at night with music throughout. Arlo Guthrie's grandson or something, I guess, is coming for part of that. SolarFest has wanted to ask me to extend an invitation for the select board and town staff come for free. So they wanted to make sure you felt welcome to that September 10th event. So our goal is to build a more resilient, more affordable and attractive town. We feel like we've got some kind of getting our legs under us now and starting to set a pace that we hope we can sustain and grow from. And again, thank you for your support. Welcome any questions, and looking forward to coming here.
Thank you, Jim.
Please.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
too. How many residents do you feel you've spoken to so far?
About
About the Energy Committee and your your mission statement, your ongoing tasks?
well, we certainly, we got in articles in the Reporter fairly routinely. I had a little hiccup for a few months, but the articles in the Reporter hopefully speaks to the town residents. We are going to have some more focus on that this year. We had hoped to get a survey where we were going to go door to door to every home in town. We decided not to launch it this fall with the political season, but we'll do that in the spring, to go door to door to every single resident in town to get some information from them and to give them some information as well. And Jeff Heelan apparently has an answer.
Well, he mostly covered it, but we are planning a sort of a census essentially where we go and introduce ourselves to as many households as we can reach in town. Hopefully learn about their energy needs, what we can do as a committee to help them, and also if they have any specific requests of us, so we can kind of pivot our ambitions from then forward. And then hopefully that would be a once every 5 to 8 year kind of census.
Jim?
Yes, Jeff.
We were at Harvest Fest. The Energy Committee has a tent and display. And then we were also at the Davenport. And then Bill has said he'll allow us to participate in Harvest Fest again this year. So we do have a chance to meet townspeople, and we hand out information from Efficiency Vermont and Drive Electric Vermont and Brock and NeighborWorks of Western Vermont. They all participate.
And so you haven't really met with any households yet, right?
Well, I mean, I'm met with households, not specifically sat down at a household and met with people, and that's true. I mean, it's part of our game plan is how to educate and inspire people to consider what we are looking to support happen. It's a big thrust, will be a big thrust of our efforts this year.
Also, you said you have just looking at your statement here, you've said you have energy committee's a 5-member committee, but now you've got 7, so.
Yeah, I said we went from 5 to 7,
Right, I think the board.
as the board approved.
Should we
Yeah.
change that in the mission statement so it reflects how many people are on it?
I don't think the mission statement should reflect how many people are on a committee.
Okay, well, that one does.
Just kind of generally.
That one does, that's why I'm asking. Either needs to be, I think it should either be taken out or not.
Well, I mean, the energy committee can revise its mission statement whenever the energy committee wants to revise its mission statement. So I guess I would
Okay.
encourage you to re-examine the mission statement maybe and
I'll be happy to do
see if
so.
it's meeting current conditions.
Great.
Can I?
Yeah.
Jim, you were just talking about like Brock and Efficiency Vermont, and I think NeighborWorks is still NeighborWorks, and maybe they're called something else.
Well, the Heat Squad is part of
So-
our, yeah.
I'm just looking at, this has been kind of giving me anxiety since oil prices, tripled last winter, that we have, I think, a fair share of folks in town that could really benefit from weatherization.
Yes.
More than anything at this point right now, and saving
Yes.
energy. And I think I spoke, I don't know if it was you or Jack or someone, like, when the Energy Committee first started, I was looking at other towns, like Bristol, only because, we
Yeah.
have a little relationship with that town. And their goal was to reach out to 20 households a year
Mhm.
for weatherization or energy efficiency
Yeah.
or whatever. And I don't know what their record has been, but that seems like that would be huge for a lot of people in this town to at least even meet with them and say, hey,
Yeah.
there are all these great programs out there that could help you save a ton of money even before a heat pump goes in or
Yes,
a solar panel or something, you know?
yes.
I don't know, I just think that a lot of folks in town could benefit from that.
Well, that's exactly what
Isn't
our
that what the button
plan is, yes.
program is?
That's exactly what our plan is for this, starting this fall, hopefully late September.
You know?
And we're doing that, we say, training to do this
Yeah.
kind of a hands-on button-up, but also some education. I
Yeah.
mean, Efficiency Vermont has about $50 of giveaways to help
Yeah,
with that.
that'd be great.
Then we'll show them how to sign up for that offering, and that's exactly what we want to do is, and we thought we'd, like I say, start with the landlords and apartments, because I think those are some of the most challenging places to reach, but we'll open the doors to others as well.
I think there's some money, like maybe talking with Stephanie Jerome would be a good thing too, because I think there's more housing money and specific funds for landlords and doing apartment units too. I think I remember talking to Stephanie about that. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of incentives out there, and there's a large pot of money that, you know, we
Yes.
should be taking in as much as we can to help these folks out.
I have a small grant I hope to bring to your attention after I figure out how we would
You know,
want best use it. That's available this fall, so
you know.
I'll be knocking on your door.
I know
Next week.
Stephanie would meet with us anytime to discuss these things further too, so,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole slew of programs. Brock, Efficiency Vermont,
Yeah.
and Heat Squad are all trying to get their act coordinated because
Yeah.
they have semi-overlapping concerns, and they haven't really succeeded in doing that, though I got Barbara, what's it, pulling?
Noise pulling, yeah.
Pulling. She's working on getting a
Yeah.
one-page recap of what each of these entities do that we'll be able to pass out.
I think we have some of those in the town office, actually.
Yeah, but it's often you have to go to 3 different pieces of
Yeah.
paper and say, oh, which one do we apply, and we're trying to get it down to.
Apply for them all, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is for a resident that looks
Yeah,
at, hey,
yeah.
but there's a lot coming also with the new Inflation Reduction Act that is gonna have a huge impact on supporting individuals taking more weatherization, even if you put in a heat pump and need to wire, you can change your electric box
Yeah.
to fit it.
Right.
You're gonna get a chunk of money, 50% of the
Well,
cost covered.
I'm gonna speak for Bill Moore now too, but I'm sure that Bill and Stephanie and I would have no problem meeting with, like you and maybe Heather from, is it Heat Squad now?
From NeighborWorks?
Yeah, and you know, the other folks
Melanie.
too, if we wanna facilitate something to the town office to get the ball rolling, I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, well, there's a whole thrust of resources coming towards towns, as you assume, you know, for
Yeah.
weatherization and
Yep.
evaluate free energy audits.
Yep.
And there's also, I mean, Heat Squad says they have a backlog on their energy audits now, and they're just getting funding to like up the ante, like quadruple with the funding they're getting, and don't know how they
Well,
need
let
to
me know,
hire.
because we certainly
Please.
would love to see folks
Yeah.
not freeze to death, you know, so,
Yeah, I know, it's gonna be a tough year.
yeah.
I had something, real quick. I was thinking about, you know, you guys show up at the carnival, which is fantastic. You guys doing this outreach. You thought about just like giving away like light bulbs? Getting a bulk purchase of some light bulbs, some LED light bulbs, those ones that look nice, the soft light, just so people understand that that's a change that they can make so easily. And you start with one bulb and,
Good idea.
you know,
No, we can, yeah, see if we can get Efficiency Vermont to give us a box full of them. to
Yeah,
hand
because
out.
they do, like I know at Tunbridge Fair, Vermont's always there
Oh,
with
great.
boxes of stuff. I'm sure they have a lot that they can.
Okay.
Well, Jim, I want to thank you for all the work you're doing chairing the Energy Committee, and I think it's impressive to me to notice that at a time when we do have difficulty filling certain boards and committees, and we've gone to the step of placing ads in the newspaper and haven't always been successful even at that point. I find it encouraging that there are enough people in Brandon who care about this, who are willing to serve on the Energy Committee that we expanded. And then you've still got more people who are willing to participate in, you know, what you're talked about as a volunteer capacity on one particular working group or the other. I think it's great the amount of involvement that you've harnessed for the Energy Committee, and I think that the model that you have there is admirable. So thank you for finding ways to include people who can help.
We're gonna need to build some resilience in this town. I think we're
headed for some challenging times.
Other
you for
public
your-
questions, comments for Energy Committee? All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you. So item 6 then is a letter from the state of Vermont to the town manager about a program, an initiative called Ideal Vermont. And if you want to, since it was addressed to you, you want to talk about it?
I would love to talk about that. So we received a letter from the state on this Ideal Vermont, which stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Action, and Leadership. Brandon had been identified to join this group because we had demonstrated a willingness to confront and overcome inequity, including racial and ethnic, I can't talk this evening, inequity through actions such as adoption of the Declaration of Inclusion. I think with us moving forward with the similar group with the league, that this would be a great next step to do, and certainly make Bill's and Sue's and my job as the DEI committee in town a little bit easier as well. So, you see on the last page here on this little pamphlet, it does say your town may be a candidate if it can deliver commitment from the local executive, the local rulemaking body, and then engage in the ideal activities. So, and take action steps and investment. So, step number 2 is commitment from the select board.
What's the pleasure of the board on the Ideal Vermont initiative?
I think it's a great idea. Another step in the right direction.
Would you propose that the town participate?
Yeah, I'll make the motion, and I suggest that the town participate in this ideal program.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there discussion? Public comment. Again, this is separate from the VLCT Diversity and Inclusion Initiative that we signed on to apply for at a previous meeting. But it looks like it might have, while it might have the same general focus, it looks like it might have slightly different orientation in how they're going to approach it. So I don't really see a downside. Other public comment?
A couple cool things on this, just
Yes.
some kind of things they blew up here. That says that 15 municipalities have been represented in the Equity Committee on VLCT. 20 school districts known to have an equity coordinator role as of this year, and 61 municipalities have adopted a Declaration of Inclusion as of July 22. So that number's gone up significantly.
Were we not like fairly early in that process?
Yep.
Like first,
We were like in the top
first
5.
handful or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, ready to vote? All in favor of the town of Brandon participating in the State of Vermont Ideal Vermont Initiative, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. That's unanimous. And then we have Stephanie Burke from Rutland Regional Planning Commission. And we've got some work that's been done to draft the readoption of the local hazard mitigation plan. So I'll turn it over to Stephanie Burke, and she can lead us through the highlights.
Great, thank you so much. I'm here really as a representative from your local planning team who is working to update Brandon's local hazard mitigation plan. So I want to acknowledge those folks because it's really their work that has brought this working draft before you tonight. That would include your town manager, Dave Atherton, the Fire District Number 1 Water Superintendent, Ray Counter, your road foreman, Sean Erickson, your wastewater system operator, Tim Kingston, and then the Vermont Department of Health Emergency Preparedness Specialist for our region, and also a new Brandon resident, Abby Spiegelman. So I've been working with those folks for a couple of months now to update what is a 5-year plan for the town to pretty much identify your vulnerabilities and risks to impacts from natural hazards and develop a mitigation strategy for reducing those vulnerabilities and risks in your community. So This plan is, in terms of an emergency management focused plan, a little bit different than what you look at every year in terms of local emergency management plan. That's a really response focused plan that's just adopted at the local level. This plan's focus is on mitigation, so kind of sunny day type activities, not the kind of plan you pull out when things are going sideways. And this is as I said, a 5-year plan that ultimately requires FEMA approval. So we're at a critical juncture or critical milestone in the plan development process, where we feel it's appropriate to share the working draft with local officials and the public for comment. So what you have before you is not a complete plan. It's really work that I would say is at the halfway point. So in terms of the table of contents, you have a full table of contents for the plan, but what's included as content is only through sections 5. Okay? So the plan includes a really brief introduction that pretty much lays out what hazard mitigation is. Section 2, the plan purpose, identifies kind of a broad range of benefits of mitigation planning. And it also specifies that this plan isn't legally binding. This isn't some kind of contract between the town and FEMA or the state of Vermont. This is really just a document to outline the goals and actions that you want to undertake as a community to prevent future loss of life and property to impacts from natural hazards. So you've noticed that I've used the term natural hazards kind of repeatedly here in this brief overview, and that's because that's the focus of this plan. This is not an all hazards plan, so we're not going to be including things like cyber issues or transportation or traffic hazards. It's really focused more narrowly on impacts from natural hazards. So section 3, in terms of your community profile, provides a brief description of characteristics of your community that might make it more vulnerable or maybe more resilient to impacts from natural hazards. And for those folks who are familiar with your town plan, there should be some repetition here. But the goal is not to reproduce the extent of your town plan in this document. It's really more to pick specific areas to demonstrate to a reader at FEMA or Vermont Emergency Management or others in your community, key characteristics that are applicable to this plan's focus. Okay? The planning process is section 4, and that is one of the FEMA requirements for the plan's contents. We need to document pretty much all the steps that we're taking in order to get you this 2022 update. And you'll notice on page 5 that, tonight's meeting is listed, and then what follows is pretty much the roadmap of remaining steps that we're going to take to get across the finish line. And I'll probably be working with your planning team to accelerate this schedule just a bit, because we're going to want to come in December with a final submittal for Vermont Emergency Management, because FEMA's guidance for reviewing these plans has been updated, and that will be coming effective in April of next year. And so we don't want to get caught in that loop of having a plan reviewed under a new guidance, so we're going to button everything up by the end of this year. Okay? So the real substance of what we're seeking public comment on at this point is reflected in section 5, which is the hazard identification and risk assessment. This section, the planning team did a very high level planning risk assessment and looked at a range of hazard impacts and evaluated their probability of a future occurrence in the community, and then the potential impact to 4 different categories: life, the local economy, infrastructure, and the natural environment. And based on the scoring from that assessment, identified high winds that are associated with either thunder, tropical, or winter storms, the different types of flooding, inundation, flash flooding, and fluvial erosion, as well as extreme cold, snow, and ice associated with severe winter storms as the highest risk natural hazards facing the Brandon community. So what follows in section 5 are profiles for each of those that describe that type of hazard impact generally, then at the state and regional level, and then we drill down into Brandon specifics. So this narrative of Brandon specific impacts is supported by a very large map that I brought with me tonight that could be available at the town office for folks to review. That just shows the geographic location of what's described narratively in this section of your plan. So section 5 pretty much wraps up with a vulnerability summary on page 12 and will serve as the foundation for the mitigation strategy that the planning team will develop when we resume work after this public comment period. So we're proposing that the public comment period extend through to your September 12th board meeting, and ask that you'd include an agenda item on that meeting to have kind of close out the public comment period, have a discussion as local officials, have an opportunity for any members of the public to share comments at your meeting. And in addition, comments can be submitted by email to Dave as the town manager during this time period. And when the planning team resumes their work, they'll evaluate any comments that come in and then button up, this what you see in this current working draft, and then dive into the mitigation strategy.
Do you have this on the website anywhere that if somebody wanted to read this, they could?
It will be, yes. So what follows tonight will then be all the postings for public notice. So I'll provide Dave with a copy of the plan that actually will include a digital copy of that map. I didn't have that ready in time for it to be included in your packets. So I do have the image now, so I'll be sending Dave first thing in the morning a final working draft to post on the website. We'll be posting it on our Regional Planning Commission website, as well as putting a notice on Facebook. So I'd encourage Dave to use all of your traditional methods of kind of public information to give folks a heads up that this is available for a public comment period.
Yeah,
and
it might make sense to give him the link as well.
How to
go to the
submit
newspaper.
comments.
Yeah.
Yes, Dave will have
Send it
everything that
in,
he
right.
needs.
Talk
Okay,
tomorrow.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
you're
So
welcome.
the packet, the draft that we're looking at tonight is already in the board packet link on the town website for those of you who like to, get your news at the same time the board gets its news.
Right, the only
so
thing
that's
that's lacking is a digital version of the
big
map.
Yeah.
But everything is described narratively as far as the location for vulnerable, where you're vulnerable in terms of a physical location.
And again, that's a primary focus of what you're seeking public comment on, is public identification of places where they see vulnerabilities for natural events.
Correct. I think that, most folks, if there's a factual error in the community profile, we of course want to know about that. But really what we're looking for is to make sure that the risks and vulnerabilities are identified around, on a
Thoroughly,
community
yeah.
scale,
Yeah.
so that they could be addressed in the mitigation strategy and hopefully better integrated with other town initiatives that you may have going on at the same time.
Well, it's a great process that you've outlined, and I think that the way that you analyze the different kinds of events that can happen here with frequency and intensity and impact and so forth it's super sensible, and it does kind of reveal what the meaningful risks are, as opposed to the scary ones that we know just don't happen here. So, yeah, so I think it's really can be educational and interesting to consider it. Public comment on the hazard mitigation draft that's being worked on right now. They're about at the halfway point. They're looking for public comment, in particular to identify areas where people feel like there might be some vulnerabilities from flooding or wind or cold events. And if you don't have anything leaps to mind right now, if something comes to mind, you could get some info to the town manager, and he will incorporate it into their process.
Very good.
We're, just so you know, we have our poster child on the front.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
Newton Road made more than one appearance in this.
Yes, that's the ones I've taken the most pictures of, so.
Yeah.
And stuff that, you know, places where still need mitigation. And just so you know too, having this, you know, local hazard mitigation plan approved and adopted keeps our ERAF at 17.5.
It adds the extra
Yes, so
boost. Yeah.
there's a dollar amount attached with this as well.
Yeah, and that was very helpful to us with this particular, well,
With,
not with the ice, but with the
Right, with
summer
the picture
flood.
on the inset here with
Yep.
the July 17 flood, you know,
Right.
our ERAF kicked in and I think we ended up spending, what, $49,000 on a $600,000 project, so that worked out quite well.
All right, so thank you for all the guidance and the expertise and the work, and thanks to all who are working with you on the team. Stephanie listed them off, Ray and Sean and Tim and Abby Spiegelman, so great, thank you.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Good night.
So next on the list is the routine bills. They're all for the current fiscal year. They're $58,000 and some change in total. What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on any of the bills that were presented on the warrant? If not, all in favor of approval of the warrant as it was submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right, any announcements for the good of the community? They've all left. We might be too late for announcements. So we'll do a couple of executive sessions, one about the police union contract and one about filling the vacancy on the select board, and report any findings in public session. All right, so thank you very much.